Okay. The budget and appropriations public hearing is hereby adjourned, and I'm going to call this regular meeting to order.
Arnold,
Here.
Beckwith,
Here.
Cheng, here. Farkapisi,
Here.
Kotzini,
Here.
Linsdau, here. Sutton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Warren Newport Public Library District provides the community with access to information, kindles the imagination of children and adults, and supports lifelong learning. Anyone want to speak in public comment? Okay. Correspondence already went around. Did everybody see it? Did you get to see it, Ann?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyone want to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve as presented?
So, second.
Okay. Ann?
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Cool. All right.
All right.
New business, part one.
You wanna someone make a motion to
I make a
table
motion
this?
to postpone, to table this until other
Oh,
people
that's
are.
right, yeah. Okay, I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. You want to do the information thing too, or postpone that also?
Let's just do it all at
That's
once when
all
Jamie
business.
Yeah, that's what I
gets
think
here.
too. Okay.
Yeah.
Business, new business part one,
okay.
right?
Yeah, that's.
Yes, uh-huh. Part one. Okay, President's Report, page 35. Questions, comments, concerns? Wait, is that what it says?
The executive director.
Oh, that's not right.
The number is a little bit off here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
President report, then reports other trustees.
Where is that? I didn't notice that.
55?
Yes,
Might be
55.
55.
It's 55.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, anybody else have a report?
Should we talk about Waterback and Amon?
Yeah, we can.
I did not call Lauterback and Amon because there was like a small thing that, no fault of Doug's, that held our statements up because of our own fault. So I'm waiting for a month where they can't say, oh, but you. And so-
That makes sense.
But Ryan and I will work together on it.
Yeah, and I'm reaching out to them to, because I'm not happy with I just want to get on the same page with them in terms of our expectations, in terms of deadlines, just so we're on the same page. So I'm gonna have a call, and hopefully that will iron out things.
Although we did kind of talk about that during our last call.
I know.
Way back when.
Right.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, I'm not defending them, but they, the Ernesta left, so they did have a little bit of change in our account. So just it's probably worth having a short call to remind them what our expectations are. So.
That was it.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Ryan's report, 57.
So let's see. One thing that's not in the report that I want to mention. Well, actually, first of all, before I forget to talk about this. So this is one of the things that we're going to give to members of the Legacy Society, and this could be yours if you commit to being a member of the Legacy Society. So you'll pass this around. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's kind of a unique item because we didn't have like a huge budget. We didn't want to spend a lot of money, but we wanted to have
very nice.
some kind of nice keepsake. So
Very nice.
so yeah, we're also getting pins as well that are nice, just little pins. So.
That's very good.
So are past givers part of the Legacy Society already, or is it?
The threshold is, what is it? Is it $5,000?
That's
Yeah, $5,000 lifetime donations or more. Or if someone hasn't donated a penny, but if they commit to naming the library in their will, next time they redo their will, they're in. So we're not asking for any money today.
No
So-
thresholds for that?
What's that?
No
So-
threshold for being in someone's will?
Yeah, we're not gonna ask questions. If someone says that to us, like it could be complete liars. We're not gonna question it.
Yeah,
We're
you
clear.
can't tell
What
them.
is it? Probably.
It's it could be a wine
It's a lighted
glass. It could be
I
a
have them.
coffee.
I have them, not that pretty, but I have them.
Yeah,
Hot
whatever you want it to
chocolate,
be.
My grandson had hot chocolate, and
Yeah.
grandma had a different beverage. But
So it's a
not-
thermal cup.
Yeah.
Hot or cold?
Hot,
You can
cold.
drink your wine
I
out
think
of
it's
it.
I didn't say that. I don't know if it's Viognier.
Very pretty.
I know, I
Yeah.
like the wood grain, it's very nice.
Looks like our oak tree.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw it, yeah.
Joe and I went to the library roundtable that Representative Daniel Didich
yeah.
did for all the libraries in his district. So his district is interesting because it's basically like a U shape. It starts, I think, at Fremont and works its way down.
I
So
think it
it's
starts at Indian Trails.
oh, the Fremont's above Indian Trails, right?
I don't think so, is it?
Well, in any event,
At any
Fremont,
event.
Indian Trails, Vernon area, Cook Memorial, us,
Waukegan.
Waukegan. So it's a lot of library districts, and he's a big fan of libraries, and he just wanted to talk to us about how he could help libraries. And we basically reminded him that, one of our biggest concerns is the threat of the property tax freeze, and how unlike some other special districts, like park districts, for example, we rely on the vast majority of our revenue is property taxes, and we acknowledge the fact that property taxes are very high in Illinois, and no doubt that the state should look into providing relief. However, if the model doesn't change and provide libraries another source of revenue, it will be problematic for us. So that was a big point of the discussion. There were some other things discussed as well. He asked us about how we felt about libraries, maybe receiving some alternative form of revenue, like from some of the other income streams the state's trying to work on,
I forget, what was the one he suggested?
sports, gaming,
Oh,
Oh, boy.
obviously marijuana.
Okay.
But
That one.
as we said to him, the problem with those revenue streams is that I think a lot of those projections, personally, it's a mystery. How much revenue will legalizing cannabis bring into the state of Illinois? I think it's a big question mark. The same with the sports gambling. So, at least with property taxes, we have a really good idea of what that revenue is going to be. So, but it was a good discussion, and we certainly have an ally in Springfield with Representative Dittich. So that was a big
Good.
plus. So it was a good conversation. So I'm glad we went. Anything to
Yeah.
add? I mean, I just
No,
gave a
it
real
was-
big
that-
picture
yeah,
overview.
mhm.
But
Yeah, it was about an hour and 15 minutes, right?
yeah,
It was short, but
And
efficient.
His name is what again?
Diddich.
Diddich, okay,
yeah, Daniel Dittich.
okay.
He's actually hosting an event here Thursday evening. Basically, the part of the library district that overlaps with his district is Park City, essentially, and then parts of Waukegan that we serve. So he's hoping to, having an event here, hoping to attract some residents to come in. I think it's like donuts with Daniels. Is what it's called, the event. So
And he's a state rep for that?
he is a state rep,
RA?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So. Then also with the Flex is on schedule. So right now, this week, they're off because we're still waiting on the lighting, but that is going on schedule, knock on wood so far. The landscaping, I have to admit, and I think we've alluded to this before, especially with the snow removal. Kevin and I are both super frustrated with Brightview at this point. We're still negotiating, and they have come back with cutting the cost for the snow removal, because one of the things I've discussed with the board was that we didn't get the service that was promised. They didn't provide, the amount of salt they promised us. So we're still working that out, and they've come down on their number. But I went back to them, and I'm not satisfied with where we're at with that. And just getting back to us, it's frustrating because we'll talk to our designer and stuff like that. I'm still waiting to see something. So I'm not optimistic about finalizing the landscaping, but I'm certainly working on it. And it's one of those things we're discussing in our relationship with them. Kevin's not even here now, but
Tell you, can
Yeah.
wait till spring. I got
Yeah.
plenty of daylilies.
yeah,
Process.
but it's frustrating. It's just frustrating that
I'm serious.
they
I know
were
you are.
they were what company were they called before? They got bought out because we really were happy with the previous company. And ever since they've been Brightview, it's just been going downhill. So it's frustrating, and so that's my update on that. I wish I had a better update. So otherwise, let's see. I feel like I'm forgetting something. The Friends had a big book sale on Saturday. It was really successful.
I was here.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
What,
packed.
staff development. That's what I'm forgetting. Staff Development Day. We had an incredible staff development day. So Ryan Dowd was here. He is the executive director of the second largest homeless shelter in the state of Illinois in Aurora. And he has written Librarian's Guide to the Homelessness. he toured the country with Emilio Estevez on the movie The Public that was made.
Yes,
yeah.
it was so good.
Yeah, yeah. So he's a super interesting guy, and long story short, he taught staff about the essentially the culture of being homeless, what that looks like, the cultural differences from someone that is chronically homeless versus people that are not, and just tools to use to have better interactions with homeless. So it was really great
awesome.
training. I mean, I just
That's
was
impressive.
yeah. Yeah, it exceeded my expectations. He was not an inexpensive presenter to have, but I think he was worth every penny. Everybody felt really good about it, and
Has some direction on how to deal with that population. too.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Can you give
Very
us an
interesting.
example of like something concrete?
Oh, sure. For example, a lot of most people that are chronically homeless, not all, but most of them grow up in poverty, and in a poverty situation in a family, the voice levels they use are elevated. So a lot of times someone that's homeless will come into the library, be talking like this, and staff might be put off by that, think like, oh, they're being hostile already. I haven't even said hello yet. When actually that's very common for someone who's chronically homeless to speak at that level. So if they're at a 9, a lot of people think, oh, that person is about ready to assault me, but no, that they're just that's just the culture that they grew up in. Because in a poverty household with a lot of people, that's you to be heard, you raise your voice, and one of the ways to deal with that, of course, is that your emotions are almost contagious. So to make sure you keep that level low, instead of to rise that to that level. So that's just one example. I mean, there are a ton of things. Really, really interesting.
That is one of the things. It was more interesting for me. Was like you have to lead them. To lead them to you, no, they lead you to confrontation. Or you have to lead them like to calm and welcoming and try to your postures, your body language, and the way you talk. It's like how you control the situation with them. It's not like just being aggressive and okay, you have to lower down your voice. It's like
body language is so important because we say so much with our bodies, and the vocabulary of someone that grows up in poverty is lesser than all of us, and so words don't mean as much as your actions do. It doesn't matter so much what you say as in how you say it. So, for example, someone has a body odor issue that's extreme, you have to ask them to go home. It's not so much how you say it, it's the way you say it, and being compassionate and so there's a lot. It was really great.
Very interesting. Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie The Public? Did you see that?
I haven't seen it yet, actually.
It's It's really interesting. It gives you a really good perspective of how it feels to be homeless and how they take over the library. And I think it was in Cincinnati. Based
Public?
on The Public. Emilio Estevez got involved with homeless folks and decided to be stars in it. It's really good.
We have it in the library in our collections.
You do?
Just hold on, it's on here.
Terrific.
Yeah, so check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was an excellent program. So
Good.
I'm
I'd
really
like
glad
to
that we
make a
did it.
motion. But can I make a motion?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I move that we, at this point we go back to agenda item number 7.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Okay. Is there another chair?
Turn on the computer. Let me see what's
Let's
going
get
on.
him in a chair.
Accommodating.
Do you need the you have the presentation?
We have a regular
I brought him as a
chair.
handout.
Yeah, we've got another chair.
We have another
Why don't you
normal
stick it up?
chair.
No, this handout's great.
Jamie, we have
Yes.
another
Like
normal
comfort
chair.
chair.
Oh,
Yeah.
this one's okay. Felt a little
You
low.
look low.
Yeah, we mind.
So I have a little handout. I think I'm pretty sure I got it up there.
So back to page 34.
I saw your two sides. I said, it didn't have two sides, did it? So- Well, thanks for having me here again. You may remember, I'm going to do a bit of a review from last time. and then give you an update on what happened today. So if you recall, you have your 2010 bonds outstanding that you issued back in 2010 for the expansion and renovation. And those bonds are coming up on their call date on December 15th, which means if interest rates went down, which they did, you could replace them with new bonds at the lower interest rate at that time. And the law allows you to issue new bonds to refund those bonds up to 90 days before their call date. So we're in that window now. So we're September 15th, sort of started that window, and we're now inside of that. And by locking in rates now, you're not subject to rate fluctuations between now and December 15th. And if you recall, when I was here in August, we felt that the rates had come down so far, so fast, that the risk of them moving back up again was greater than the opportunity for them to move lower. And so I suggested that we move ahead at that time. And so we took off, went as quickly as we could. The market's been a little volatile, as we'll discuss, in the last since that time. It went down, it came back up, but basically we're back to where we are, and I think it's a good time for us to lock in those rates for that same reason. I mean, we've been there, and now we're probably, we've seen what rates can do just in a short time, and so I think by locking in now, we're doing a smart thing. So we did take bids for the bonds today. We sent out an offering statement to the street, so to speak, to the investor universe about a week ago. They had a week to work with that information and develop their plans to bid. We had 5 bidders set up to bid, so 5 bidders indicated an interest in bidding, and we actually received 2 bids today. There was a third who I did talk to, find out why they didn't bid. Said, well, we would have been the cover, but we just didn't. We were looking for orders from some interested parties that didn't come in that would have strengthened our bid. We had a sense we wouldn't win. We had other things to do, so we went about our business. But he did confirm that he was right between the 2 bids we got, which were 1.95% from Baird and 2.01% from Stifel. So that's pretty tight, and we know we had a third right there, so we know we hit the market. There was, now sometimes if there's a widespread, you wonder what's going on, but we had a nice tight range there. So good news, the bids were helped by the fact that you were upgraded to AAA. By now, I'm guessing news has gotten around. That's really just a remarkable achievement for a library district and for an Illinois entity. There's not very many, you know. And by the way, so the interesting thing is you're rated better than the United States of America right now.
That's crazy.
Wasn't true.
No, great. But that's a true statement. You can tell people you're better rated than the United States of America. And so, you know, you're talking about, you know, Lake Forest and Winnetka, you know, places
Really?
like that, you know, very few have a AAA rating. And I think we probably saved, obviously we didn't have bids both ways, but based on my experience and what I've seen, you probably saved between $30,000 and $40,000 as a result of having the upgrade from AA plus to AAA. I mentioned the market's been volatile, but we're basically right where we were when I presented those numbers in August. So the bonds, again, purchased by R.W. Baird is part of a syndicate. They had a syndicate of a number of underwriters, and Andrea had asked me earlier, can retail investors buy these bonds? Can people in the community buy these bonds? And the way you would do that is by, if your broker is one of the members of the syndicate, you could call up your broker, you know, if it was Bernardi or whatever, and say, I heard you purchased these bonds. I'd like to buy some of them. Or if they're not on this list, chances are you called your broker and you said, hey, I'd like to get some of these bonds. They would contact somebody on this list and they'd obtain them for you. Can't guarantee that they're at the exact offering rates, but that's the way you get your hands on those bonds. And so if anyone's interested, just tell them to call their broker. And I'm obligated to say the information provided on this slide is not provided as an offer to sell the bonds or a recommendation to purchase them. You can only do that through a broker. with the proper offering documents. So the fact that I provided this information, you should not take that as a recommendation to buy the bonds in any way, or an offer to sell them to you. Okay, so next page is the sale results, and you'll see they look very, I didn't put the August ones on here, but they're basically very similar. We had present value savings of just over $500,000, $565,000. And average savings of about $62,500 per year, and the actual cash flows over there on the right. You can see this year you've already set your budget, so we didn't lock in any savings for this year because you're all set. But those savings start next year for the life of the bonds. And before I get to the next page, which talks about the ordinance you have in front of you tonight in a little more detail, I thought I'd stop for questions. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, next page. So what you have tonight is a little bit, takes some paying attention to explain. But you have a bond ordinance in front of you that authorizes the issuance of the bonds on rates and terms satisfactory to the, it's delegated to the board president and to the director to sign off on the final terms. But we have the terms for you tonight, so we'll be able to talk about, we've already talked about them, in terms of those are the savings. What I told you tonight is what's locked in now for the refunded. So in this ordinance, if you read it closely or even loosely, you'll notice that it specifies a maximum par amount of bonds, okay? It specifies a maximum interest rate on the bonds, and it has a lot of the other details, that they're registered, that they're, what the redemption provisions are, what the trustee has to do, what your responsibilities are. So it's long and it's involved. And so what we have is that the bond ordinance directs that there be a bond order that has all the details of the bond issue, which is just a 2-page thing, which if anyone is interested, sorry, I got something in my house. If anyone's interested, I have a copy of that bond order, but it's just the amounts of the bonds, the interest rate, and the prices at which they were sold. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then once you've passed the ordinance, then the board president and director can sign off. Okay. Any questions on that bond ordinance and what the purpose of the ordinance is? And then we'll talk a little more about the details of the sale. Okay. So once you've passed the bond ordinance, which authorizes passing of the bond order states the par amount of the bonds, gives the interest rates on the bonds, as I said, and the price at which the bonds will be purchased. And you'll say, let me go in the order I wrote this down. So those three things in turn, together, the amount of the bonds, the interest rates, and the prices at which the investor purchases the bonds, determine that investor's rate of return, or their true interest cost on the bonds. And that's the bid. That's what they bid, is that true interest cost, and the lowest true interest cost is the entity that won the bonds. Okay. Now, if you look at the ordinance closely, you may have a question. You say, well, wait a minute. We just got an interest rate of 1.951%. The ordinance authorizes an interest rate of 5%. Why are we authorizing interest rates of 5% when the interest rate is 1.95%? And the
Can I interrupt
answer
you for
is,
just a moment?
Yep.
We changed it to 5%, but it was 6%.
Yeah, in the packet it's 6, but we discussed earlier to change it to 5, which you don't have in front of you. No, that's my mistake.
Just to add to the confusion.
Just add the confusion.
We didn't want this to be too straightforward. So,
Trust me, it wasn't.
No worries about that.
so the ordinance is 5%. So what's going on there? And so the way to explain that is coupon, or interest rate, and yield are two different things. So don't think of them as the same thing. And I got a little picture here. Andrea challenged me to explain this simply, so you're going to see how I did. All right? If you think of a bond, and look at the little picture on the left, okay? And pretend that's a bond, where the green is the face value, the par amount of the bond, and the blue is the interest. And if the interest was what I needed for my rate of return, right? They matched the same thing. I want a 2% interest rate and the coupon is 2%, I'm gonna pay you 100 cents on the dollar for that bond, right? I'm gonna give you $1,000 for a $1,000 bond, and then you're gonna pay me my 2%, and I'm gonna be happy. That's easy. Now suppose I still wanna buy a $1,000 bond, but you're giving me more interest. You see how that blue is bigger on the little bar on the right? I'm gonna increase the interest on that bond, but I'm still only gonna call that bond a $1,000 bond, right? Well, what happens then? Well, as an investor, the bond's more valuable to me, right? Because it's worth more because you're paying me more. So I'm gonna pay you more than that $1,000 for the bond, okay? And I'm gonna you're gonna realize, you as the library are gonna realize that as premium. Okay, someone's gonna pay you more than the face value of the bond for that bond. Now, you put all that together, the investor's still only gonna receive their 2%, right? Because they're paying you more and they're getting more, and the way the math works out, they still get their 2%. So they're giving you just enough more that it makes that interest work out to 2% in the aggregate for them, okay? And in today's market, investors don't want to get a bond with a 1.95% interest rate. They want a bond with a 5% interest rate, because that's what investors want. If you're a retail investor, right, mom and pop, you're clipping your coupons, you're going to the store, 2%'s not gonna cut it. You want 5% back on your money. And so that's the way bonds are structured these days, is kind of more with a 5%
So,
coupon
but
like
wouldn't
that.
they pay less for the bond?
No, they pay more because it's more valuable, right? If you want 2%.
So if they're getting, if I want 5%,
Yep,
and it's gonna pay me $2 a year,
no, it's the other way around. If you want 2% and it's gonna pay you 5% a year,
but aren't our bonds 2%?
your bonds are, no. So the yield requirement of the investor is 2%, right? They wanna earn 2% on their money, but we're gonna pay them 5% on the value of the bond.
Oh, so our bonds are at 5%.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you're gonna
Have it
pay them
flip-flop.
5, and so it's more valuable to them, because all of a sudden they're getting all this money, so they're gonna say, oh, well,
Yeah.
I'll pay you more. In reality, what's happening, they're just getting their money back, right? They paid you more than face value of the bonds,
Right,
and then you're
they
paying them
amortize
more
that
back, they're just getting their money back. But it works, the math works out so that they end up with their
So
2%.
we're paying an effective rate of 5%.
No, you're paying an effective rate of 1.95%.
I'm all confused. If I'm confused, everybody's
Sorry,
confused.
Keep asking questions. I'm like-
Okay, so let's do this again.
I think I'm
You just
following.
have it exactly backwards. So just think of it backwards. Think of it that way. You want
That's
a rate
rare
of
for
return,
Andrew.
right?
Let's
that is very
just
rare.
take one bond for $100.
Okay, $100.
Okay, so $100, how much are we paying interest on that bond a
So
year?
you're gonna pay
$5?
$5 of interest a year.
So our interest rate is $5.
No, because, let me
Five.
explain why that is.
If we're paying $5
Well, hang on.
and we received $100,
But we didn't.
Let's make sure we're all using the same language.
so
Okay.
did we receive $100 or did we
Yeah.
receive $104?
103 and change.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Okay, so we received 103 and we're paying 5.
yes.
Okay, so their effect,
So we're
so
still
our
paying
effective interest
1.9.
rate is 1.95.
Exactly.
Okay.
Got it.
Exactly.
You okay?
It's hard. There's no question about it, that it's confusing, because you think of a bond as being $100, and you're gonna get you're gonna sell $100, you're gonna get $100, but that's not the way that's at work. So you sell $100 worth of bonds, but you get $103,
Because we're that good.
because you're that good. But it made sense about the retail investor, right? If you're mom and pop, you're retired, you're putting out money, you want a certain amount every year to pay your bills, even if in reality what's going on is you're just getting some of your premium back,
Yeah, that's how I value companies all the time.
So, yeah.
If you want a 20% return and the company gives off $1 million a year, you're going to pay $5 million for it. 5 times 20 equals 100.
So that's that. Clear as mud. I tried, did my best.
Does everybody understand it? There'll be a quiz. That means you too, Gina.
No, I'm just taking notes.
So good job today.
Any other questions? Are you ready for the motion?
Do we have the motion as amended?
It's on page 2.
Because it changed since then.
Well, we haven't made a motion, so you
Yeah.
just made a motion,
Yeah.
and we don't have to change any motion.
Before we make the motion, can we see the actual current copy? Or is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What, I think that's what we need to
Or
discuss.
can we just go through what changed
Yeah, I was
on
gonna
what
say,
pages?
can't we just go over the changes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, in terms of I think the sticky issue with, like, obviously we'll change on page 221, the 6% to 5%. Obviously
Page 30.
going to page 1, after we had a conversation when I got off the phone and I was talking to Jamie about this, I realized we certainly can change that amount in here, that 1.815 million. However, we can't change the name of the ordinance because of the way it's on the agenda. So an ordinance, the title of the ordinance is an ordinance providing for the issue of not to exceed 6.815 million general obligation refunding bonds, yada, yada, yada. So the board could choose to change the amount in here, but if the board chooses that, it's not gonna match the name of the ordinance. But that's your call.
Because we're actually doing less, right?
Correct.
Because I
And
didn't,
yeah, it's not to exceed.
Right.
So what's that number? What's the actual number?
is it the
It's 6,
6015?
This,
The-
yeah, the actual, the,
It's the 6,696,000?
yeah, that sounds exactly right. But the reason I'm not comfortable with that
That's-
is because I don't know from a legal standpoint exactly what that number would be calculated as. And so I was wanting to build in at least some cushion. It is a not to exceed number, right? It in no ways binds you. And the bond order actually has even a different number in it, 6015921, because they take out.
Oh, yeah, this number.
Because they take out the fee of the underwriter. So, but I don't know which is the right number. Like, if you want to cut it close and you cut it a penny to penny wrong, one way or the other, they're going to say, well, you violated the terms of the sale with the bid. And so, honestly, to me, I would like you to just leave it. It has absolutely no effect whatsoever. And it can only, because we know the results of the sale, and it can only get us in trouble if we put in the wrong number.
But we
And
do
it's a
need to
ceiling.
change the percent on page 2, correct?
Yes.
That's
Oh, the
being
percent,
changed.
well, you don't need to.
But we're changing it to
Because that's a not
5%.
to exceed number as well. It's just an easier one, because we can see it's 5%.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're not gonna get in trouble.
Everyone's good with changing that? I just
Well,
want
To
to make sure.
5%.
Do we need to change it, or can it be as is, considering that
'Cause
this
it's also
is
saying-
shall not?
Yeah, but we know what it is.
Okay,
Why not make it less murky?
let's write it in as 5 then.
Is there anything else changing?
There were a couple typos. I
Yeah, we-
changed.
Yeah, the copy in your packet does it have the oil?
Yeah, what
page was
Is
that?
that, is that too?
Yeah, I corrected those.
Here it is, it's on page 11, in Article 7,
Here.
third
Yes.
line,
Shown oil.
shown oil.
That's corrected in the ordinance, that
Okay.
you have to sign.
Okay.
This one it has some words
You
that
don't need the
are
address shown.
Okay.
incorrect.
Oil.
But that
Did
change
you fix this?
It's supposed to be on.
Mhm.
on,
Okay.
So we just have cosmetic changes.
Yeah, the rest.
And
were
the
just-
5%.
yeah. The 5% is the only substantive one.
Okay. That's correct.
Anything else?
I do want to bring up the fund part, because in here it said that we have to create a new fund, our fund accounting with the different columns. So they're looking into see if we actually have to create a fund, and if we don't, then we'll get authorization, we'll get some sort of backup on why we don't have to do it. So,
And that language seems to be pretty standard. As I looked at the 2009, 2010 ordinance, when this was done, it has the same language in it about creating the bond fund, so. We can figure that out.
we're
later.
gonna find out what makes us that we don't have to, but if we have to, we'll have to add another fund.
Right.
Because now that I know about it.
Do you want me to comment on that?
Yes.
Let's- Well, we can talk,
Feel
let's
free
talk
to
about
comment on
offline.
that.
Yeah, Jamie has done the research on that. We'll,
Oh, you did it already?
yeah.
What's the answer? No? We have to create a new fund?
You gotta do it.
Well, it's advisable to do it, yes.
It's
Well, then we're
strongly
creating a new
advised.
fund.
Let's do that in Part B.
But
okay?
we'll do that tonight, don't worry.
Oh, okay, all right.
No, we're not gonna do that now. We don't have the money yet.
All right.
One quick question, just to be absolutely sure, on page 3 of this ordinance, 3rd paragraph. Joe, do you actually have to sign all 1,300 something? of
Joe
Bonnie
and I
and
were
I
talking
were
about this
I
on the
asked
way
that
here.
question.
Do I really?
Yeah,
I did ask that question.
Andrew has to know.
no.
Thank you.
She says, how long would it take?
I'll just have to get a cot and sleep.
There was a
here.
time.
Your hand will
You
be-
know, there was a time, and they had a big machine, and you would sign one, and it would repeat. Like, they'd set it up,
Oh,
and you'd
uh-huh.
go in and you'd sign one, and it would sign them all
Populate
at the
them
same
all.
time. But before you had those,
Had to sign them by
you'd
hand.
sign them by hand.
6 million?
Wow.
You'd be here one.
So when does the money,
October 8th.
October 8th? And so we'll go in escrow.
Yep.
It will go on our financial statements, cash and escrow, and we'll have to have a restricted fund balance for that.
But it's gonna come right back out.
Right.
So in terms
But
of
it's
a
gonna
fiscal
come out in
year,
December.
you're not even gonna
But we
see
have
it.
monthly financial
Yeah.
statements, so,
You'll have that
so
escrow.
because of the little initials at my name, after my name, I have to make sure that it's in the restricted.
Yeah.
I can't just gloss over it. Because I don't get to issue statements that I know are wrong.
I know. We all know this about you.
You guys can, but I don't get to. So, but that's our thing, not your thing.
Yeah, but it won't hit your financials exactly. I mean, it will because the
It
bonds
will
show up
for
as
October and
refunded, but-
November.
But for the monthlies, it will, yeah.
Yeah, so just,
Yeah.
can you send Doug an email to let him remind Waterback and Amon that that has to be restricted, in the restricted?
Yep.
Because we don't get to spend it in between.
I hope not.
I don't think we have access to
You
it.
know, you can't touch it.
Well, Joe's, she's signing it. So yeah. Right, Joe?
I
Want to
could
go on
find a use
vacation?
for it. I think, yeah. All right, any other concerns, questions?
Reminds me.
Is that another concern, Andrea?
No, I just have to remind myself.
Oh, thank you.
All right, would you care to make a motion?
Oh, me? Okay. Thank you, Gina. Let's see.
Good job.
It's on page 2, right?
Where do I start reading from here?
I move that ordinance.
I move that we accept ordinance 2019/2020-4, an ordinance providing for the issue of not to exceed 6,815,000 general obligation refunding bonds.
Alternate revenue
That's
source?
not what it says. Alternate revenue source. Series 2019 of the Warren Newport Public Library District, Lake County, Illinois, and for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and the interest on said bonds.
I'll second.
That's perfect.
Any further discussion?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so roll call.
So who seconded?
I didn't-
George.
Okay. Sutton,
Aye. Yes.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Farkapisi,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Cheng, Linsdau,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it. Motion carries.
Unanimous.
Okay.
Terrific.
Thank you very much.
It's all you. Well done.
Just browsing.
There's been more time spent looking up
Yeah.
all those,
Oh, yeah,
all those
that's great.
terms than this took.
It's a lot of money.
Because if you
So-
didn't, we'd be here all night.
That's true, that's true.
Okay, move on to the discussion now.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
Discussion of bond sales, is there anything, but we discussed the discussion of bond
pretty
sales
much
results,
covered it.
right?
Yeah.
Information, yeah, so,
Yeah, so-
is there any other action that the board needs to take this evening?
So the only thing I want to just make sure, and I'm sorry to take your time with this, so you have the bond order? Did you get that?
No, I did
Okay.
not.
Is
So
there
I'll give you-
anything we have to sign tonight?
Well,
Look at the
since you
table over
authorized
there.
and since there was a focus on the bonds, I would have you, sign the bond order in the presence of everybody so that you know you authorized something and it got done the way we said. And then, the other thing I'm just gonna leave, Ryan, for you, is the bid itself. Which, the bid form, I just want you to have it.
Okay,
We'll get it signed from Baird in the morning, and then you'll countersign it.
So is there
Okay.
anything that you need signed from us that you take away tonight?
I don't need to take anything tonight.
Okay.
No, okay.
Does,
okay.
you guys all know what we have to sign and can make sure that we sign it right before?
We have 2 pages, one that you have to sign with the president, the other one is the secretary and president. It's the whole ordinance, 2 of you,
Okay.
the other one is.
Jamie, I do have it here, I'm sorry, this came late, in the day, I didn't see it yet, I'm sorry.
Thank you,
Okay,
Jamie.
Thank you very much.
You want us to print it quickly
I
and?
printed it out.
Okay. And do I fax this then?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, everybody. I'd say let's wait till we get this from Baird, because they'll sign it, and then you'll sign it.
Okay,
And then this is the bond order, which you could sign tonight.
okay,
Okay, if you want to do a duplicate, we'll give you a second one.
okay, and this is,
That's the bid
okay,
that Baird gave us for
Right.
us to sign off on and award, and this is the bond order that accompanies the ordinance.
so would this be Joe that would sign this, or this would be me that would sign
You
it?
can sign it.
Okay. All right,
Okay?
okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
How far did you drive?
From the city, it's
Oh,
okay.
my gosh.
That's what I do. 2 or 3 times a week. Take care.
Thanks,
you.
Jamie.
Thank you for the charts.
Yeah, the charts were,
I hope, well, you gotta ask Andrea, how do we do
we
with
like visuals.
not so good?
Well, if we all understand it, including me, then I think we did well.
All right.
Actually, one more thing, I just want to thank Jamie for his great work on this, he was, I mean, we couldn't have done it without him, he was, it's great to work with, and super responsive and on top of things, and really, it was a pleasure working with Jamie, so I am appreciative, I know Doug is as well, so thank
Yeah,
you.
he was very patient with me today.
That means a lot. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
This wasn't good.
Okay, were we completely finished with your report?
I think,
You were right.
I'm not even sure where I was, but I wanted to mention staff development day, that was the last thing I wanted to mention. Any questions about my executive director's report? Going back to it?
What page is that? 55.
There was a typo, that's why I stumbled. I'm like,
Yeah.
what word is this? I never
I
saw
was gonna
this
say,
word
it looked
before.
like alternative.
It wasn't. It said something
Okay,
else.
so
Okay.
we're ready for item 11. And I can't remember, this is on here as new business because we approved it on the consent agenda a couple months ago, but the minutes were not at our places.
Right, I have them here.
Okay, so let's pass those around and take a moment to read them.
I know, I looked at the consent agenda first, this is, you wanna just take a few to pass those down, and then read them, and then just give them back to me if you wouldn't mind.
You want that one?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Do you want to put that together with this?
The visual, no, it goes into the executive.
Well, that's different, that's,
Closed.
that's something entirely different,
Okay.
yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. That's a happy one to read.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
Nice, I know. Thanks, Evan.
Everybody done?
Yep, I've got
They're
one.
all back?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, I move that the board approve the minutes of executive session meeting August 6, 2019, to remain closed to the public.
I second that.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 1. Okay. Financial statements. You're up.
Okay, so question, did we
Page
get,
67.
did we get our adjusting journal entries in there? From,
From
the audit?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yes.
just wanted to check.
Yes.
So I have no questions because of Doug's lovely variance report, which this started back in, not that old, it's like 5, 6 years old. That explains like why things are different than 1 month's stuff. So that answered all my questions, but does anybody else have any questions?
I like that explanation. It's really helpful.
It is very helpful. I always keep it like right here. When something looks odd, that's the first place I
I'll
look.
go back there. Okay.
So for Catherine, maybe, there's a lot of stuff we buy, annual subscriptions, insurance that we buy at the front of the year. So if you go down, the expenditures, here we are. So you see the percentages? So 1/12 is equal to about 8.33% of the year. So I scan down to go, what is more than what should be 8.33% and is not? If it's 0% and it's insurance, I wanna know what's going on. So it's not that I'm happy if everything's always under budget. So,
Yeah.
and I just scan and say what looks unusual. But if something's like 90% of budget and it's a $100 item, I'm moving on. I don't, yeah. So, but there are a lot of things we buy at the start of the year that, like the audit will be done within a couple of weeks and we'll have spent 100% of our budget on that.
Yeah, I was just gonna, and you pointed it out, when you look at the monthly financial report, this is kind of this report, the first report is kind of like your executive summary, and then anything that is out of the ordinary should be on the variance report. Occasionally, there's something that looks strange that isn't, but Doug does a nice job of putting this together, so should answer most questions you might have.
At the end of the year, these should all be 100?
They won't all be 100, some will be a little bit more.
Okay.
And
Some
if,
will be a little less.
and quite a few will be less, but if that, anything is way over, we're gonna know beforehand, because we do pay very close attention to this all year, just ask anybody in the library.
Right. Yeah, we try to discourage, we don't try, we do discourage, oh, I've got money left over in my account, let's spend it. We don't, because as we tell staff, like, that's
We're watching
great.
that too.
Because what happens to the money, it gets rolled into the special reserve fund, and then we use that money for things like the parking lot that we still have to do, or a bookmobile down the road, or, whatever. So it's money that, it's kind of like put into kind of like savings, so
Yeah,
it
so-
gets used.
Yeah, we don't want anybody going, oh, wait a minute, I still have 50,000 on my budget. I'm gonna hurry up and spend that, because that's not how we do things around here.
Yeah.
I did hear that at the very beginning and I almost fell out of my chair.
Right. Well, I think that's the thing that you have to, that's part of the culture that people.
Not under
No,
your.
but I mean,
umbrella.
but what I'm saying is that
Expectations.
if, like, let's be honest, the vast majority of staff, I mean, they kind of they have a budget and they know they've got this much money to spend, and a lot of times with some libraries, that's all the staff really cares about. It's like, this is my budget, this is what I have to spend. But that's why you have to go the extra mile and educate staff about the big picture of the budget. That, like, no, that's not your budget, that's the library's budget. That's what we have for this area. But If you don't need to spend all that money, well, that's great, because there's other places we need to use it that's going to benefit everybody. So that's an important part of the communication process, because it is really easy just to not.
And a team
Yeah.
mentality rather than
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
individual department.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. So, anybody else have any questions? Can we, somebody make them up? I move to accept the July 31st, 2019 financial statements as presented.
I'll second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Cool. All right.
Unanimous.
B, ordinance 2918, budget and appropriation. You wanna talk about it?
Yeah, hopefully the memo that's on page 127 does a pretty good job of explaining what this is. So, basically starting in the summer with the tentative B&A ordinance that was adopted, the next step of basically the tax levy process is this budget and appropriation ordinance. And I like to explain what the difference is between what's budgeted, what's appropriated. The budget number is what you approved as a board in the budget for this fiscal year. What's appropriated is what we are able to spend if necessary. So the example I like to use is snow removal. So if you look on page 206 of this 129, under the Building Sites and Maintenance Fund, you'll see snow removal, the budget is $33,000, where we've appropriated $50,000. Well, this is a good example to understand how this works, because we aren't exactly sure what we're going to spend on snow removal. Hopefully we'll stay under budget, but if we have a bad year, we may have to go over budget. And since it's appropriated to $50,000, we can, obviously the board will know about that in the monthly reports, but that's something that we can go ahead and do and not have to have the board reappropriate the money. Yeah, so that's kind of the simple example of it. So we cannot spend more than we appropriate, and hopefully we won't spend everything that's appropriated. And if you look at page 5 of 6 on page 132, just because the appropriation is that 7.8, that's not what's going to end up being the final levy, because the levy is capped by a couple different things, like the cost of living increase and specifically the PTEL. So that's not necessarily what we're actually going to end up levying. That's there. So this is the next step of the process. The board will adopt this budget and appropriation ordinance, and then we will do the tax levy ordinance, I think in December, and that will authorize us to go out and levy to get revenue to run a library. And we will not have to do a hearing. In the past, we've had to do a hearing when you are planning to levy over 5% of last year's levy, but we won't be doing that this year, so there'll be no public hearing for the levy. That's pretty unusual when we have to do that.
We only did that because we forgot to abate the tax levy.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the only time you'd ever foresee us doing that is if, I guess the example these are like, let's say Old Mill Creek, there's this boom and it gets developed and there's all this new growth in the district. Well, to capture that growth, then you might exceed that, but that's pretty unusual circumstances.
How much was levied last year?
Was it last year that we were going up?
It was 2 years ago.
Because we
Yeah,
levied
last year
accidentally.
was a-
And
last year
Then
was
the
a-
following year, we doubled
That's
the abatement. So then when we went back up to normal, we were over.
Yeah.
So,
Last year was a normal year.
Yeah, last year was a normal year.
but the
So-
year before it was twice as low, because the
So
year
we had
before
to
that, it was
bring it
up
up.
one. So we went up because we levied when we weren't supposed to. Then we went down 2 levies, and then back up to where we were
I
supposed to
raise
be.
your hand.
So in technical sense, is that as a percentage of people's property taxes?
Yes.
Not as these?
Well, what's gonna happen is, this is how much we're asking for, that's what the levy is. That's gonna go to the county. The county's then going to determine how much we're entitled to ask for, which is gonna be a number lower than we're asking for. And then that's the number that we'll get. However, if we ask what we think we should be entitled to and the county says the number is higher, we don't get to go back for more.
Mm.
So you
Right.
always
I
ask
get
for
what you-
more than you think you can get, so that you get as much as you actually can get, which impacts how much we can get in future years as well.
No, it's a good way to explain it. I mean,
That
it's,
was
it's, because it's simplifying, but that's
Uh-huh.
right,
Very
and that's
good.
exactly right, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's a and it's this whole, I will admit, it's kind of
It's
a strange
it's a game.
process. Yeah, and it's a weird, the process is unusual.
It's the kind of math that isn't, but it works.
1 plus 1.
Isn't that true? That's right.
Yeah.
So I move that ordinance 2019/2020-5, budget and appropriation for fiscal year 2019-2020 be approved as presented.
I'll second that. Further discussion?
Yes. Park Tracy,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Sutton,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Chang,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
Okay.
So it's kind of together to another cycle. Takes like a cycle or two to really kind of wrap your head around it. I think, maybe not, maybe.
This I
maybe
got,
3.
this I understood a little more than this. I'm used to that in the corporate world.
Yeah.
But that is what we used to pay for that.
Yeah.
Okay, resolution for the Friends, it's National Friends of the Library Week, and,
That was very
coming
nice.
up. How about would you like to read this into the, shall we do that?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll go
yeah,
ahead and read it
that's
then.
nice.
All right. Resolution 2019-2020-3, National Friends of Libraries Week 2019 proclamation. Whereas the Friends of the Warren Newport Public Library raise money that enables our library to move from good to great, providing the resources for all library programming, much-needed equipment, support for children's summer reading, and special events throughout the year. And whereas the work of the Friends highlights on an ongoing basis the fact that our library is the cornerstone of the community, providing opportunities for all to engage in the joy of lifelong learning and to connect with the thoughts and ideas of others from ages past to the present. And whereas the Friends understand the critical importance of well-funded libraries and advocate to ensure that our library gets the resources it needs to provide a wide variety of services to all ages, including access to print and electronic materials, along with expert assistance in research, readers advisory, and children's services. And whereas the Friends' gift of their time and commitment to the library sets an example for all in how volunteerism leads to positive civic engagement and the betterment of our community. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees proclaims October 20th through 26th, 2019 as Friends of the Library Week in the Warren Newport Public Library District, Lake County, Illinois, and urges everyone to join the Friends of the Library and thank them for all they do to make our library and community so much better. Okay. I move that Resolution 2019-2020-3, Proclamation National Friends of the Library Week, be approved as presented.
I second it.
Discussion?
I would like to say, we have wonderful, wonderful friends who work tirelessly
Yes.
for absolutely no pay and support the library in every way possible, and we are just so very lucky to have such a vibrant and active friends group.
Mhm.
And if you haven't become
They're
a friend
super
for life, I
dedicated.
suggest you
Yeah, they
do.
are incredible, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I came to return a book Saturday, and I said, I'm going in there, I'm just gonna make a donation, but I'm not gonna buy anything. I'm gonna make 2 books.
I did the same thing and came out
Yeah.
with more.
Yeah.
But I made sure to tell them thanks. They were just
Yeah.
changing of the guard, so they were,
It was super crowded, too.
Yeah.
The
Now, you
parking lot was
should
packed.
make sure you tell them, if you're a friend and you're buying a book, that you're a friend, because we don't pay sales tax on books sold to members of the Friends. It's a state thing.
oh,
Oh, I never knew that.
And we get to have 2 book sales a year that have no sales tax. And we
Oh.
can thank
oh.
David Weiner in our office, who he's the accountant for the Arlington Heights Friends, and he told me this. It took me like a year and a half to convince them, but now.
Well, make sure we're doing the right thing, but
Yes.
yeah, it's a good deal for, yeah, that saves.
Huh.
But never to Friends, so they ring that up separately, so make sure you let them know.
Okay, let's do it.
Sutton,
Aye.
Arnold,
Aye.
Cheng,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Parkapisi,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
All right, resolution 2019-2020-4, that is page 137. This is what we
talked about last-
discussed at
yeah.
committee of the whole.
I
You
will
wanna
request
say
this one
anything?
be read into the record as well, just for anybody who might be listening in to know what we're talking
All
about.
right, go for it.
Okay.
That's a great
I
idea.
will face the
See?
camera. I'll have to actually take it out to do
So
so.
they can understand me.
Resolution 2019-2020-4, resolution calling for Macmillan to reverse library ebook embargo. On July 25th, Macmillan Publishing announced it would become the only major publisher of the Big Five publishers to limit ebook lending for U.S. libraries. Under its new licensing model, scheduled to begin November 1st, 2019, a library must purchase one copy upon release of a new book title in ebook format, after which the publisher will impose an 8-week embargo on additional copies of that title sold to libraries. As American Library Association President Wanda Brown asserted that same day, Macmillan Publishers' new model for library ebook lending will make it difficult for libraries to fulfill our central mission, ensuring access to information for all. Macmillan's new policy is unacceptable. And Public Library Association President Ramiro Salazar stated, access to digital content in libraries is more than a financial issue, it is an equity issue. We encourage Macmillan publishers to reverse course before libraries and people they serve are harmed. Millions of people now use digital content as their preferred or only access to books, music, and movies. Digital content is portable, accessible to people with print disabilities, available anywhere 24/7, and brokered by libraries to provide diverse options to our diverse communities. Libraries not only pay for books, they market them. Lost marketing means lost publicity and sales for publishers and authors. The Warren-Newport Public Library District joins the ALA in denouncing this measure and calling for Macmillan Publishing to cancel the embargo and restore full access to its complete ebook catalog upon release to the public. Furthermore, the Warren-Newport Public Library District affirms the principles that all published works must be available for libraries to purchase and lend to library users. Access to and use of ebooks must equitably balance the rights and privileges of readers, authors, and publishers. Digital content must be accessible to all people regardless of physical or reading disability. Library patrons must be able to access digital content on the device of their choosing. Reading records must remain private in the digital age.
Thank you. That was an awesome
Very
idea.
good.
Yeah.
Okay, Cheng,
Aye.
Someone make a motion.
I'd like to
Arnold?
make a motion first.
Oh, sorry, I thought we had that on the floor already, sorry.
okay,
You want to
Go
go
ahead.
for it?
Yeah.
Sure, I move that we approve Resolution 2019-2020-4, resolution calling for Macmillan Publishing to reverse library ebook embargo.
I'll second that.
thank you.
Further discussion? Okay.
And Joe. Cheng,
Aye.
Arnold, Sutton,
Aye.
Parkapisi,
Aye.
Linsdau,
Aye.
Kotsinis,
Aye.
Beckwith,
Aye.
ayes have it.
All right.
All right. Okay, items for next time. Anything?
For next,
Quite a few on here already.
next board meeting or next committee of the whole?
Either one.
I think mine are already on there, audit and.
Yeah. One thing that did come up when we were talking about the parking places and if we had enough, George suggested that perhaps we might want to discuss at committee of the whole whether we want to identify this space reserved for expectant mothers. Everyone want to discuss that? I'll put it on the agenda if you do.
Mhm.
Are you
Sure.
good with that?
Sure.
Okay, I'll put it on. Anything for the regular meeting? Okay. Anyone want to speak in public forum? Okay, announcements. You see them there? Anyone else have any announcements?
Oh, it just occurs to me, I see other, can we just change it to all reserved parking instead of just expectant mothers so that we can,
We can talk about that at the committee of the whole, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that might be an option. All right? No other announcements? Who would like to move to adjourn?
So
Move
moved.
to adjourn.
Okay.
There's three of them, that's what I anticipate.
Who wants to second?
I move. plenty this today. They
Andrea,
can have
okay,
it.
who wants a
Andrea
second?
went first, I'll second.
Okay,
Okay.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain. Cool.
Opposed
We're
can
adjourned.
stay by
8:05.
themselves.
That's a lot for.
A lot of things to sign, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good, actually. Forget